The Defence Tri-Services held a briefing that cleared doubts about the new military recruitment scheme Agnipath and explained why the country needs this policy for mass entry to the armed forces. Lieutenant General Anil Puri said the centre did not give concessions in the Agnipath scheme because of protests and arson, but that these were already in the works. Listen in.
देखिए, हमें चाहिए क्या? यूथ. नो, यूथ हम सबको मालूम है वो रिस्क ज्यादा लेता है, उसके अंदर जुनून ज्यादा है, जज्बा ज्यादा है. इस जुनून जज्बा को कैप्चर करना जरूरी है, बट ये जुनून जज्बे के साथ में हमें होश की भी जरूरत है. मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ होम अफेयर्स ने बोला कि हम रिजर्वेशन करेंगे. उन्होंने ये नहीं बोला कितनी परसेंटेज करेंगे, उन्होंने बोला प्रेफरेंस देंगे सीएपीएफ में. जैसे ही 3 दिन निकले और ये प्लान था, इसको ये मत सोचिएगा उन्होंने 4 जगह में देखी कुछ हरकतें होती हैं आर्सन की वजह से हुआ. नो, ये प्लान था. ये क्यों प्लान था? बिकॉज मालूम था कि ये 75% जो युवक हैं इतनी देर फौज, 4 साल फौज के रहने के बाद ये देश में वापस जाएंगे. ये देश की ताकत है.
All right, and in fact, we have been tracking the details of that story where the armed forces has made it clear that there's no place for vandals in the army. They've also said that the aspirants have to take a pledge. Let's go straight across to my colleague Akshay for more on this, who has been tracking the details of this story very closely on the ground. If in fact, Akshay is over there tracking the story. Akshay, thanks for joining us at this moment. The Defence Tri-Services held a briefing that cleared these doubts. The most pertinent question by these aspirants was what happens after 4 years. Now, what does the Tri-Services have to say about that?
Well, Sonakshi, today all the three chiefs of the armed forces had a meeting with Rajnath Singh, the defence minister. All of these points, several points were discussed as far as the youth is concerned, as far as the Agnipath scheme is concerned, the Agniveers are concerned, the protest that is happening, the arson that has been taking place for the past 5 years. So when there was a press conference today, a lot of questions were asked and a lot of questions were answered as well by the forces as far as the reason for this scheme, as far as the reason for the scheme is concerned. The Army, the Air Force and the Navy, all the three forces have clarified that they wanted youth to take part. They wanted a young profile of Army, Air Force and Navy. They have studied different forces across the world and they had come to a conclusion that the Army, the Air Force and the Navy must have to cut the age of the personnel. So this according to the forces was the least painful time to implement the scheme because of COVID pandemic. The induction of soldiers could not take place in the past 2 years, and that exactly is the reason that this timing was chosen. Now some of the most important questions that were being raised by the youth was that what exactly happens after 4 years. So the chiefs, in fact, when they discussed a point that has come out now, it is and in the press conference as well, one thing was clarified by the senior officials of the Army, Air Force and Navy. It is that everything is done in a planned manner. All the relaxations, all the concessions that are being given, it is not a knee-jerk reaction because of the arsons that are taking place across the country. This was in the pipeline, and further relaxation, further kind of concessions, any kind of announcement that is being made, it is all being made in a very planned, very gradual manner. So once the topic is discussed, the announcement comes later. We are talking about the Central Armed Police Forces, which in fact will be given about 10% of reservation to the Agniveers who will discontinue their service after 4 years. About 25% of the Agniveers will be absorbed into the army and they will serve as regular soldiers, as it has happened earlier as well. But about the 75%, the Army, Air Force and Navy, they all the arms of armed forces are in fact, all the wings of armed forces are confident that the Agniveers will be absorbed into other services. They will be absorbed into Central Armed Police Forces, they will be absorbed into state police, they will be absorbed into industries as well. According to the details that were shared, about 83 to 85 industries have in fact approached asking for Agniveers to be inducted in their services later once they are discharged from their service. As far as the states are concerned, about 4 states have said that they will be recruiting the Agniveers as well.
In fact, Akshay,
one more very important point is about...
Sure, go ahead.
Well, Sonakshi, so the point that I'm trying to make is about the pledge as well, because that remains one of the very important points that have been raised as far as the PC is concerned. Because all the people, all the Agniveers, all the candidates for Agnipath scheme, they all will have to sign a pledge, and they will have to say that they were not part of any arson, they were not part of any kind of protest, and there will be a police verification. And
in fact, Akshay, it is interesting. I was just coming to that. For the Agnipath entry, applicants will have to, these aspirants and these applicants will have to sign a pledge. That's what the forces have made it clear. Interesting also to mention that the forces have said that we need a combination of Josh and Hosh, clearly pointing out at the vandalism that has been created amidst this nationwide protest. Go ahead and tell us, what is this pledge that the aspirants will have to take?
Well, yes, Sonakshi, that pledge becomes very important because of the arson that is taking place. One question was raised to the armed forces that what exactly happens to those people, to those candidates who are angry right now, who are protesting right now. And there have been arsons across the country. There have been incidents where trains have been burned. So one point that becomes extremely important is that whether these people who have been involved in the arson and protest, whether they will be given a chance or whether they will be barred from taking part in the Agnipath scheme. So one thing was clarified, that discipline is extremely important in the armed forces, and that exactly is the reason that each and every candidate will have to sign a pledge that they were not part of any arson or they were not part of any protest. There will be a police verification as well, and if any of the candidate has an FIR filed against them, then they will be barred, which has been a procedure that was followed earlier as well in several of the government jobs, that if there is an FIR against you, if you're not approved in the police verification, then you will not land the job. So that remains the same, and all those people who have been named in the FIRs, those people will in fact find it impossible to join the Agnipath scheme in future.
All right, Akshay, thanks very much for joining us with those details. You have been tracking that story. We will be coming back to you as you are on the ground over there tracking the developments of that story. Discipline is very important in the forces, and the forces seem to have made that very clear. Now listen in to Lieutenant General Anil Puri, the additional Secretary of the Defence Ministry, who says that there is no place for vandalism. Take a look.
इसका हम कर रहे क्या है? इसका ऐसा करा जा रहा है कि हर एक इंडिविजुअल जो हमारे साथ अग्निवीर स्कीम में जुड़ना चाहता है, वो अपना सर्टिफिकेट देगा, प्लेज करेगा कि उसने ना तो किसी प्रोटेस्ट में हिस्सा लिया है, ना ही किसी तोड़फोड़ में हिस्सा लिया है. ये प्रावधान करा गया है. एंड आप सबको मालूम है, आजकल कहीं पे भी फोटो खींचेगी और वो आधार कार्ड के साथ जुड़ेगी. पुलिस वेरिफिकेशन इज 100%. कोई नहीं आ सकता फौज में विदाउट पुलिस वेरिफिकेशन.
In fact, the Agnipath scheme will not be rolled back. Why should it be rolled back? They have asked. Listen in.
To roll back of the scheme, no. And why should it be rolled back? It is the only progressive step to make the country young. Why is it being made young? You know, we are tinkering with देश की रक्षा. There is no space. एक ही सिर्फ है देश की रक्षा करने के लिए, और देश की रक्षा करने के लिए मैं आपको एग्जांपल देता हूं. पता है कितनी कैजुअलिटीज आती हैं जस्ट फॉर हेल्थ पर्पसेस फ्रॉम हाई एल्टीट्यूड एरियाज? आप पढ़िएगा, ओके, तो तब आपको पता चलेगा यंग क्यों जरूरी है, ओके, एंड क्या जरूरत है उसकी. तो ये रोल बैक करने की तो मेरे तरफ से तो आपको कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि बिल्कुल रोल बैक नहीं हो.